So again, you've heard that time heals all wounds. We know that's a lie. It would feel very comforting if we knew that a year or two from now, we'd feel so much better if we just waited out. But time does not heal all wounds, engagement does. And as I said earlier, people in their 40s, 50s are still carrying around childhood wounds like they're fresh scars, and repeating the same toxic cycles, stuck in the same limiting beliefs. And I've engaged with people like that, whether it's family members or just people I don't even know or just met who look like they just traveled back in time when they're in a stressful situation. And it's like, okay, that's something that's still a wound for you, right? And it's something that has not been addressed. And so, a question for you is, be honest. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, if I just wait it out, I'll feel better eventually? So, just drop a one in the comments in the chat. I mean, if you've been there, that's something that I can definitely relate to. But here's what no one tells you: healing, again, it's not passive. It's not something that just happens over time. It's something that you have to actively engage in. I had someone once tell me, I don't get it. I've been journaling about my childhood for years. Why am I still stuck? And so I asked them, okay, but when was the last time you actually felt the emotion instead of just describing it on paper? Especially if you're an intellectual and you intellectualize a lot of things, journaling will help in maybe the release portion, but not the processing portion, because there are a lot of people who come into therapy who, are self aware and know how to talk about sort of their issues and the things that they're stuck in, yet they don't have any deep insight or any connection because of the fact that they're intellectualizing a lot of the things that they've learned over time. Yeah, so I asked about emotions because, like, a big part of healing is being connected, mind, body, and heart connection, because there's a huge difference, like I said, between analyzing pain and processing it. And so this is again where most people get stuck. They think that they're healing because they're reflecting or journaling about their past, but what they're just doing is circling the wound, without actually ever entering it. So drop a one in the chat if this just called you out, with love, of course. I'm all about being gentle with y'all. You know what I'm saying? But I gotta give it a little. I don't want to say tough love, but that grandma love. Anyway, so let's break this down from multiple angles. We're gonna talk a little bit about psychology, a tiny bit about neuroscience. I'm not a neuroscientist, but some things I learned along the way. I'll be sprinkling a little spirituality, some trauma research, just so you can get a truly understanding about how just waiting it out is the biggest lie we've ever been told. Okay. If time healed all wounds, therapists would be out of business. Like, we wouldn't have any clients, and people in wouldn't be in therapy at 50, still sort of trying to figure out why they sabotage their relationships or why they shut down emotionally, why they can't seem to shake that constant, maybe nagging anxiety or depression or whatever else, right? So time does not heal trauma. What you do with that time does. So that's very key. And I want y'all to just write that down. If you're taking notes, kudos to you. I'm going to say it again: time does not heal trauma. What you do with that time does. So if you think about it like this is a simple analogy. If you were to break your leg and you just waited for it to heal without a cast or even rehab, like going to physical therapy, sure, the bone might fuse back together, but it probably will heal wrong, right? You might have a little, what you call that? A little, I was gonna say pimp walk, like, you just kind of like this, right? So you might be left with some pain, some stiffness, and a limp. There we go, limp walk. And so trauma works the same way. If you don't actively process it, it doesn't just go away. It actually reshapes your nervous system, literally. It buries itself deeper and it manifests as some of the things that we already talked about: chronic anxiety that you can't explain. Like, I don't know why I'm anxious. I've had clients who are like, I don't know, I was a little anxious today. Nothing really happened, but I started being anxious. Even like things that come up, like relationship patterns that almost seem like deja vu. Like, I kind of been there before. I did this already. Like I said, I've had these conversations before. I've had this feeling before, and it doesn't feel good. And of course, exhaustion, like chronic fatigue, muscle tension, even digestion issues that maybe doctors can't really fully explain. And so avoidance often masquerades as healing, right? Giving it time. I'm just going to put this away for a little bit, put it on the shelf. But here's the trap that most people fall into. They mistake avoidance for healing. And so they tell themselves, like, I just need a bit more time to get over this. And then 5 months, a year goes by, and it's like, you still talking about that thing that happened in 1999? Anyway, or you'll say things like, I'll deal with it later. And then later doesn't come because life happens and we all get busy and things pile on and it gets pushed down underneath the subconscious. Or we say things like, I'm too busy to process all of that right now. I definitely hear that a lot with clients who feel that their lives supersede their mental health. And so, you know, they use busyness as a form of deflection. So you might be saying that yourself. I've definitely said it in the past, right? I just too busy. When I think about when I moved to Thailand in 2016, that was me totally running away. I bought a one-way ticket and I was out of there. But there, wherever you go, there you are. And so all that grief, all of that anxiety, depression just followed me overseas. And I had nowhere to go. I had to actually face a lot of those things because I wasn't as busy as I used to be. I wasn't overworking. I had a lot more time. I had the pace was a lot slower. So all the things that came up to the surface, I had no choice but to deal with it. So there was no running away from any of that. So let me ask you this question. Have you ever convinced yourself that you were healing only to realize later you were just avoiding the hard stuff? If so, again, you're not alone. This is something that we've done. Everyone is sort of guilty of this behavior. And so hopefully today we're going to change some of that and it's going to encourage you to, over time face some of the hard stuff at your own pace, of course, and in a way that kind of works for you, right? Because everyone's different in how they sort of deal with these things. So let's transition into the neuroscience of healing and how rewiring the brain is so important. So, one thing I want to make clear is that trauma rewires your brain for survival, not change. So, if you experience trauma, it doesn't help you change. It just helps teaches you how to survive in a very stressful situation. And because that imprint is still there with you. And so anything that's similar to that imprint, it's going to do what it does, protect you, shut down, all the other things. And so most people think that healing is about thinking their way out of pain, as I talked about, like intellectualizing things. But here's the truth: trauma isn't stored in your thinking brain, it's stored in your body. And if